We walk every day, we talk every day, we drink water every day, and we avoid sugar every way that we know how. It's tough to do, but we do it every single day. We are the Venters, and we want you to join us. And here's the key. Whenever you're doing any type of walking or exercise routine, if you can learn to make it one of your favorite hobbies, that's the best way to be successful. And the best way to be successful when it comes to walking routines is to never take a day off. See it as something you love, and it never feels like a workout at all. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I've got an interesting story. There's a lady by the name of Tova Ridgway. She had a situation where she got a phone call and she thought she was talking to her stepmother. She was actually talking to somebody that I assume was using artificial intelligence or something like that to mimic her stepmother, and she ended up giving over her Facebook account information to this hacker. It's not really a hacker though, it sounds like somebody that just tricked her and got her account information. So this guy, we'll call the hacker, goes into her Facebook account, right? Deletes her email, replaces it with his own, deletes her password. So before you know it, the next time she goes on Facebook, she's locked out of her accounts. Now, to show you how crafty this guy was, he ended up contacting her Facebook friends and pretending to be her, and he asked them for money, you know, like, hey, I'm in trouble, send me $50. Hey, I need some money, can somebody wire me some cash? And because a lot of these people thought that it was Tova, their friend, a lot of them came through and sent him money. In addition to that, he started taking pictures of property that belonged to Tova and her father and different family members, and he started offering it up for sale on her Facebook account. Now, here's the interesting thing. Let's say you have a $2,000 couch or a $2,000 used vehicle, and all of a sudden somebody calls up thinking it's their friend Tova that they know and trust, and all of a sudden they say, hey, I'd like to buy that piece of furniture. So this guy would say, hey, send me a small deposit down and I'll hold the couch for you, or I'll hold the piece of furniture, or whatever the product might be. So he ended up taking Tova's Facebook friends for money. Tova, in the meantime, is reaching out to Meta/Facebook, you know, the right way through customer service, and all she got was the runaround. And I've had that situation too, where when you have a question about your YouTube account, or in her case, her Facebook account, you can never talk to a human being. You always get sent to these forums or through these endless loops of different scenarios that might fit your own. And of course, they always have a, hey, thumbs up or thumbs down, did this help you? And it ends up being a big smorgasbord of crap. It ends up being a situation where a lot of people just throw their hands up in the air and give up on Facebook and all the websites altogether. And that might be a blessing in disguise if you're one of those people. But anyway, Tova wasn't going to go down like that. And even though this bad guy had a hold of her account for months, she finally got fed up, drove down to the main office, which I guess is located in Menlo Park. And get this, she actually knocked on the door and was turned away. They actually told her that there's nothing they can do about this. She got lucky though. She found out about a little service that they have for high profile people, like famous folks who constantly get their accounts hacked or doubled or whatever you want to call it, where they get bogus accounts in their name. And Meta/Facebook has to have a way for famous people to be on their site without too many troubles. So anyway, make a long story short, Tova ended up paying $14.99 for this specific service, and I'll put the name of the service up here. It's basically their concierge service. Tova was making the argument that you shouldn't have to pay for some sort of Facebook security, and if you're going through a really bad time with getting your Facebook account back in your name, you should be able to talk to a person. By the way, she went the route that most people do, which is trying to go through the corridors and the portals, right? But every time one of her friends would report fraud on her account, what would happen is they would get a little message from the AI. And get this, the AI would say the content on this account is not breaking the guidelines. And therein lies the problem with artificial intelligence. Whenever you have to deal with a robot or a machine, you have to hope that whoever programmed the robot or the machine actually made it halfway intelligent. And a lot of times artificial intelligence or automated answers just aren't really all they're cracked up to be, right? So anyway, after she pays the $14.99 for this Facebook security concierge service, she actually gets to talk to a human being. She gets to tell the human being what her situation is, and in just a couple of hours, the account was put back online in her name and the problem was solved. So that leads us to a lot of questions. Why the heck do things have to be this way? Why can't somebody as rich and powerful as Mark Zuckerberg actually pay for more people to be human beings on his staff, where they could actually take some of these problems? And you know, sometimes you just want to vent to a human being on the other side of the line. Now here's the fascinating thing. So many people through the years have had different accounts of theirs hacked into, including a lot of potential venters that are watching this now. If you, a friend, or a family member have ever had to deal with this, where your account got hacked and it was really difficult to get it back, let me know. Now, if you don't have too many personal things on your account, you could probably just let it go and open up a second account. But still, it's just the whole idea that somebody could literally fake being you, take over your account, and for a business not to do anything, that seems kind of shitty, doesn't it? Anyway, we got some fun questions here. Let's go over them. Oh, and by the way, some of you might be thinking, well, Jesse, the other day you were making an argument that we should make parole boards and judges artificial intelligence. What if a situation like this pops up? What then, Genius Jesse? Well, Genius Jesse has an answer, punk. Here's the answer. Imagine a judge gives a criminal a light sentence, and then the criminal gets the bill and it's still a huge big sentence. So he calls up the judge to get things right. And all of a sudden he gets an automated recording and a portal and a loop, and he never ends up getting that lower bond like he was promised. Do you see how artificial intelligence could be good in that situation? And that's obviously a joke, but think about it. That would be fucking awesome, wouldn't it? That would be freaking awesome, wouldn't it? That would be freaking awesome, wouldn't it? Just having the bad guys where they're supposed to get out, but because of this technicality, it takes them months to even talk to a human being. I like that. These questions are pretty funny. Or I should say their names. Take a look at the names of some of these people that left these comments. At Big D for Reals. You know someone doesn't have a big D when their handle name is at Big D for Reals. Gave up Facebook for 2 years and it's been one of the best things I could have done. Big D, one of the second best things you could have done is come up with a better name than Big D for Reals. Come on now. But I agree with you completely. I have a handful of friends that have swore off social media, and they swear it's the best thing that they ever did. When you're on social media constantly, you start to notice that the days go by quick, you don't get anything done. One of my favorite movies, and if you guys have seen this, let me know down in the comments. One of my favorite movies is called Click with Adam Sandler, or Sandberg. What's his name? I haven't even watched one of his movies in so long. But anyway, in this movie, there's certain moments in life where through this little remote control, he's able to fast forward through them. And that's kind of how social media comes across to me. We fast forward through life by avoiding it and just watching videos of other people living their lives. And it ends up having a horrible effect, because at the end of the movie, Adam Sandler realizes, holy shit, I've missed all of my life because of this magical controller where I can fast forward through boring, mundane things. Sometimes you got to remember that boring, mundane thing is your life. It's not always meant to be fun. It's not always meant to be exciting. Sometimes there is some joy that can be found in having a quiet little walk. Sometimes there's some power that can come from just having a plain glass of water. And sometimes there's a lot that can happen just by avoiding sugar. I don't know how I got on that one, sorry. But anyway, the next guy, at Daniel Marquez 4935, says, the irony is the address for Meta's headquarters is One Hacker Way. You can't make this stuff up. Daniel, one thing you can't make up is that people come up with names like Big D for real all the time. Daniel, I agree with you completely. If you have a company and it's actually on One Hacker Way, that is kind of crazy, kind of ironic, right? But the reality is, who would come up with a street name like that unless that was a big deal in the business? You could have a great business, but if your customers get hacked, your business could go the way of the dinosaur. I think it's despicable that we have these people that literally it's their job to steal identities, and they just want to kind of get rich and successful by taking from others. But you know what? I think that's just the way it's always been. It's kind of hard to complain about something that's been around since the beginning of time. If you think it's a little ironic that it's located on One Hacker Way, I think that's a little funny, but at the same time, sounds about right, doesn't it? Definitely sounds about right. The thing I hate with technology is it's designed for the young people. If you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, you might have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to safe practices online. But when you're in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, God, if I had to give the best advice I could to somebody in that age group, I would say just stay away from it. Really, really stay away from it. If somebody sends you an email, just tell them you only deal with stuff in person. They're going to have to send it through the US mail, or they're going to have to just leave you alone. Because there's so many people out there that are trying to do bad. One of the best things that I can say to people, and it's really true, if someone's reaching out to you to get you to buy something, you could probably get that cheaper if you avoid that middle person altogether. So again, other than talking to your family members, there's really no reason to be talking to salesmen and different scam artists on the phone or opening emails that you don't know about. And if you ever have a situation where your family member calls you and they need money, you need to remember that there's a chance that it could be artificial intelligence faking their voice. That happens nowadays. So again, even if your kids were to call you, I would just let them know, hey, you need to come see grandma or grandpa or your mom or dad in person before we're going to send you any money. And if it's one of these calls where they act like they're being held for ransom or they just got kidnapped, have a secret code word, you know, with your kids or with your family members, a code word that's just between you and them. You know, as those men in the North Hollywood lawn say, a safety word, right? A safety word. This next person's name reminds me of that politician, Chris Burchett. He's such a goofball. He's trying to get famous off of the UFO phenomenon. And I'm telling you, he's going to get rich and famous off it because one day he's going to write a book and it's going to be a bestseller. The reason I know he's full of it is because his catchphrase is Dagnabbit. And this person's name is @Dagnabbit. They say creates a problem and then sells the solution. Heck of a business practice. You know, it's irritating when I read that, Dagnabbit, because the reality is you're very, very true. They create this thing that everybody and their mother gets addicted to. They get you to the point where you really can't survive your day without hopping on Facebook. And I say people because it's not really me. I go on Facebook once or twice a week. But a lot of people are on there once or twice an hour. Now imagine you get somebody hooked like that, and then all of a sudden they lose their account. And you let them know that, hey, there's nothing we could do unless you want to go through all these hoops and over all these hurdles. But if you're willing to pay just $14.99 a month, we can make it go away in one phone call. Well, that's kind of shitty, isn't it? Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get a lot of people that'll pay that $14.99. Now, people that are in the comments might say, well, hey, why don't you do what Tova did? What Tova did was she paid the $14.99, got her account back, and then canceled her subscription of the $14.99 a month. That sounds like a smart way to get around it, right? But the reality is people like Tova shouldn't have to pay anything. What it should be is you should go into a line And if you have to wait a little while, that's understandable because there's billions of people on Facebook, but it's not like everybody is getting their account hacked at the same time. There should be some sort of like, hey, one of our personal customer service reps will try to get back to you within, let's say 72 hours, right? You shouldn't have to pay to get stuff fixed. But again, the whole idea of creating something that people are addicted to and then pretty much making them feel like the only way they can fix it quickly is to come out of pocket, that does seem kind of shady, doesn't it? Because at that point, what you got to say is that Mark Zuckerberg is not only profiting off of people's addiction to social media, but he's also finding a way to profit off of the people that are hacking into other people's accounts. There you go, Mark Zuckerberg. That's understandable, right? You're finding a way to double dip on this stuff, and that's wrong. Here's our final comment of the day, and it comes from @OrganicJules. The nerve of Zuckerberg to not want to pay to properly staff his company. Organic Jules, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. He could easily pay people in India, right? We've got all these borderline second and third world countries out there where these companies outsource all their work to anyway. You're telling me there's not a person in one of these companies or countries like India? By the way, 90% of the companies that I've worked for, our IT professionals, are based in India. What's that tell you? It tells you that obviously they're able to do a relatively good job. I say relatively because, again, if you have to even talk with a person from India in person, even though they speak English just like you and me, it's still hard to kind of communicate. There's some sort of culture barrier that makes it hard for them to see how irritating things can be for Americans, right? But either way, you have these people that are able to do a pretty decent job for a very affordable wage, and yet people like Zuckerberg still cut corners and go cheap. Man, show your customer base, Mark, that they're worth it to do something the right way. This is what I don't understand about billionaires. If Zuckerberg were to leave the planet tomorrow, which I'm hoping he doesn't, he looks young, I want him to live another 40 or 50 years, but if he were to leave the planet tomorrow, that guy's got so much money in the bank, he'll never be able to spend it all. Billionaires, it's almost like they don't even care about money anymore. They just care about success and how can I outdo what I did last year. It's kind of that same model that we use for weight loss here, Venters. It's the Kaizen model. That's why business is so powerful. When you have leadership in business that says, hey, how can we be more profitable and better today than we were yesterday? And even more importantly, how can we be even more big and powerful tomorrow than we are today? That's actually a model that works. That's what you want. But at the same time, you need to be able to do it in a way where your customers don't get screwed. And that's the problem. When you're dealing with the Kaizen model for weight loss, it doesn't hurt anybody, and if you share it, it helps people. But if you use the Kaizen model in profitable businesses, sometimes the little guy, i.e. the customer, ends up getting shitted on, And so again, that's probably one of the only problems that the US has when it comes to capitalism. Capitalism does make the world go round. You need to have business opportunities. Because when you have business opportunities, it equates to jobs, that equates to families, and it's just a good thing. But when you throw a little too much greed in there, Mr. Zuckerberg, all of a sudden you get a situation like this, where people feel like they have to come out of pocket to simply talk to a human being. Now imagine in the future, you're trying to order McDonald's burgers, right? And you're like, God, just give me one that's E. coli free. So they give you this E. coli free burger, but it's not from a human, it's from a machine. And pretty soon you realize that, my goodness, the machine doesn't even realize that instead of putting a burger patty in here, it put a wad of napkins. I mean, there's a chance going forward that machines can make errors. And even though you think your machine is smart because it has a million answers to a million pre-planned out questions, there's always going to be unique circumstances where you really need to talk to a human being. And again, sometimes as a human being, you just want to vent with another human being on the other end of the line. And when you make it where it's darn near impossible to talk to a person, it's really, really frustrating. I don't know if you guys have ever had to call like a government entity, whether it's the courthouse, whether it's for child support, whether it's for a consumer fraud protection, anything you do involving the government. I don't know if you guys have this same experience, but what I found is you end up waiting in a queue forever. You end up getting a lot of press this button for this, and can you type in your zip code for this? And before you know it, it's been an hour and a half of you sitting on a phone, not talking to a person yet. That can be really frustrating. And when your city and state do nothing but raise taxes every year and then give you shitty customer service, again, it's enough to make you want to pull your hair out. You know, if you guys have ever had to deal with the rigmarole of calling up companies and just begging them, customer service, please, customer service, please. If you ever have to deal with that, let me know, because I've had to do that a handful of times in my life, and that is the worst thing when they say, I'm sorry, that command is not recognized. Let's try this again. And if you keep doing it, it'll do the ultimate insult, which is it'll literally hang up on you and say, goodbye. I've also had government entities where if you call them at 4:30, they'll put you in that queue so you're waiting for a live officer, right? And then literally at 5 o'clock, it'll cut that queue off and say, we're closed for the day. Please try it back again tomorrow during business hours. Oh my God, that is the worst. The other day I go to fix my address on my license. So I go down to the MVD, this is no joke. I had to fix my address and I had to put my name on a title for my older vehicle. Something that would probably only take 10 minutes. I get there at 4:45, the place closes at 5, and the person stops me and says, I'm sorry, for what you want to get done, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Now here's the difference between me and a lot of people. I don't sit there and throw a bitch fit. I simply say, okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? And I just kind of tuck my tail between my legs and go. Because the last thing that I can't stand is when everybody has to throw a hissy fit in public. If you have to throw a hissy fit in public, just prepare to get there earlier. Do I like that I got there 15 minutes before it closed and there was no one in line? Of course I didn't like that. But does that validate becoming an asshole and making a big scene? If I would have done that, they probably would have said, come to the aisle, Mr. Jameson, we'll take care of you. Because that's what bullying does. But I can't sit here and complain to you guys about those people and then be one of those people. And by the way, if you are one of those people, you know, it's okay to just kind of say, see you tomorrow. You don't always have to be given the respect of a king, you know? When people tell you, hey, you're too late, we'll see you tomorrow, and you say, no, give me the manager. I didn't get here at 4:45. Your office is supposed to be open till 5. I mean, are you in the right when you make that argument? Yes. Could I have made that argument? I even told the lady, I go, well, ma'am, no one's here. Can I just do this real quick? And she said, I'm sorry, sir. It's just kind of a rule we have. It's not a law. The business is open. I could have said, bring the manager over here, and I probably could have fought it and got it done, right? But again, at the same time, why don't we pick our battles in a better way? You know, is it one of those things that it was going to be a life or death situation? No. Do I use the vehicle every day? No, it's my second car. The reason I wanted to make sure I had everything set up on it properly is because it doesn't have air conditioning, so this is the time of year when I like to use that car because, again, it's cold this time of year. And I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. If you're the type that would have made an argument to say, hey, it's not 5 yet. You guys are supposed to be open till 5. Everybody's here. Let me in here or I'm going to make a complaint. I guess you have every right to make a complaint, and some people would, just based on principle. But my thinking is, I talk to you guys all the time about how I can't stand people that want to be right to the point where they treat everybody rude, right? You go to McDonald's and you order something and they mess up on your order. I see videos on this all the time. You think they're disrespecting you, so you pretty much start a fight with the whole crew of McDonald's or Burger King or wherever it is. And then you slowly but surely realize, I'm creating such a scene that all the customers behind me are being disrespected now. So again, that could have been a spot where I said, you know what, screw this, get your manager. And I probably could have said some mean things and threatened to complain, and they probably would have helped me, but I'm glad I didn't do that. You know, it was a Friday. They want to get on with their weekend. It's not really the coolest thing to do, to shut down before your business is closed. But again, guys, I recommend pick your battles accordingly. That's not a battle that's life or death. You can let that go. And that goes the same for when someone cuts you off. If you're not in a rush to get anywhere and someone cuts you off, yeah, it's irritating. But don't become a road rage incident that makes it on the news. It's not that big of a deal. And if you can kind of put yourself in the person that's cutting you off, if you can put yourself in their place, well, maybe they just got a phone call and they got to get home. Maybe there's an emergency happening. Maybe they don't have air conditioning and they want to get their car moving so they can feel the cold air coming in. There's a million reasons why people are jerks. That doesn't give you a right to be a jerk as well, you know? And if you have a friend that's stressing out because maybe they lost their Facebook thing and you know how to help them, help them. That's the biggest bummer in life, right? You have a problem that someone has and you know how to solve it, but for some reason you don't want to help them because we don't like going out of our way for people. We don't like doing stuff unless there's something in it for us. I think we all know that scenario, right? You have a friend that says, hey, can you come over and help me hook up my cable? And you've hooked up so many cable TVs, right, to the wall. You know how to do it in your sleep, but yet there's a piece of you that just doesn't want to go over there and help them. So you're like, hey, I got to take my niece to the motor vehicle department, right? You'll make any excuse instead of helping your friend that doesn't know how to set up their TV. Do the right thing for people. I think that's the difference between now and, let's say, 50 or 60 years ago. People used to go out of their way to help their friends and neighbors. Now we don't do shit unless there's something in it for us. Anyway, if someone calls you and they say, Mom, it's me, they're kidnapping me, just hang up on them. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.